he and Jamie Dimon and Timmy Gaitner and Ben Bernanke and George Bush. No, you can't take down this trust.
Now, I'd like to believe that December 25th or 21st of 2012 is the end of the world.
No, it's not the end of the world. It's the end of this banksters. Of the banksters.
I would like to see 2012 be the end of the banksters. Now, we've got this this case, this Libor case over in Europe, and that the fingers are pointing right back here to the United States. We're trying to, so people are waking up out there, aren't they? I mean, some of the governments are waking up out here.
I in here the other day on a court case down in Ocala, Florida, where they had sued the IRS, and the top officials of the IRS are resigning. There's more where grand juries have been indicting Obama.
Yes, I believe that's in Florida.
Mm-hmm. So there's just all kinds of stuff going on. But what they're doing is they're doing it piecemeal. They ought to get together, synchronize it, state by state. Walk in, do it at the same time. Walk into these courtrooms when the court is open at the same time on the same date and have people walk in there and declare treason. That'll stop these little son of a guns.
It should be. Now, you know, I've had some of my guests on here that are also barred from RBN, from John Stadmiller's, from Alex Jones's, you know, personal little Jewish channel over there that they stole. You know, we've been barred from there for telling the truth about this.
Oh, well. They never want the truth to be told right now. You take a good, hefty look at what they're doing. They're rewriting history. How many times did I tell you, and all of you, and I mean all of you, that Saddam didn't do what I had met Saddam. He wasn't guilty of what they claimed he was. My husband was a friend of Gaddafi. My husband was the one that headed up that group called Operation Christmas Tree that put in the sack bases over there in Libya. We've had more contacts with these nations. These nations that they're trying to take out. Now, why are they trying to take them out? Because these are the gold cartel banks. They want them gone. They wanted to keep using that fiat money so they can come out that's backed by nothing other than your goods and your services. And there's no goods anymore because we aren't manufacturing anymore. And there's no services anymore because we have no jobs. They gave all of those away and shipped them out to foreign countries. Now, when's the American people going to wake up?
I want to, I'd like to address, since I have you on, since you met some of these people personally, you know, this is a war to take over all the resources of Africa, and Gaddafi was doing good. Saddam Hussein worked for us, and we provided him with the weapons of mass destruction that he used against Iran. Now, people
he didn't use those.
He didn't? He killed 800,000 Iranians in this war that we backed him on.
That was your CIA.
Of course it's the CIA, yes ma'am.
That was your CIA. Now they're raising hell now about this over in Benghazi and how Obama didn't help those people in Benghazi. And they're saying that, well, it was American troops. No, it wasn't American troops. It was CIA. I'm just wondering, and you got that article I sent you.
Yes, ma'am.
Was the president did he finally get enough guts to stand up and say, wait a minute, you know, you guys aren't legitimate anyway. You know, let's stop this. Did Obama have the guts to do what no other president has done since Harry Truman? Did he have that much guts? I'm beginning to wonder. I've never liked Obama, but in his defense, I will say, did he stand up against the Central Intelligence Agency?
It's possible. We don't know exactly what's happening behind the scenes there. But
now, did Saddam? No, Saddam didn't. Now, I'll tell you something about all of that weapons of mass destruction. Under Title 38 and Title 50, you're going to find where in 1987, the United States gave those nations the formula for nuclear energy. And that's what these little nations have been doing, is building themselves up to come out of the dark ages and using nuclear energy. I don't believe that there's been a weapon of mass destruction anywhere other than those counterfeit derivatives that was put out by the Bush administration and the Clinton administration. And Israel.
Now, Grandma, what they've tried to do to you, they've been doing to millions of Americans throughout the whole hospitalization, throughout the whole drug culture, and I'm not talking about smoking pot here. I'm talking about the pharmaceuticals with a 200,000% markup that they're advertising on the television and making drug addicts out of our mothers, our fathers, our grandmothers. They did it to mine.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. You know, I'm the only white American that has been denied her Social Security, her widow's benefits, her Medicare, Part A and Part B, and now D. I live on my income is $864 a month. I live far below poverty level. And yet these son of a bitches bitch and moan if I have one nickel. I've got $39 on food stamps. But I'm just a predator of this thinking fucked up country. But they're trying to kill me. And when they do, they're going to find out they have opened Pandora's box and created their own worst nightmare. I promise them that. I'm not threatening, I'm promising.
Leo Wanta, have you been in contact with him? I mean, he's been trying for a long time to get some funds that we could use.
Who?
Leo Wanta.
Leo and I work constantly together. I talk to him every morning and every evening. Leo's winning a court case, and I'm not going any further than that. And just like Leo and I have discussed, we've got the only legitimate collateral out here. The two of us have the only legitimate collateral in the entire globe.
Are we going to what could happen to allow you? I mean, you're talking about having $800 a month from Social Security. What?
684.
684. What is preventing you from being able to use some of the funds controlled by the Durham Trust? What are they doing to keep you impoverished?
Well, you management thing. No one has considered that they've used all of that collateral illegally. Well, I cannot use it legally or lawfully. They can go around creating all these little wars, destroying all these nations illegally on stolen money. that in the conditions and the articles of trust, no portion of the funds can be used for making of weapons or for wars. Now, I think somebody better start reading. Now, Mr. Valentine and his financial group West, and I've got to say this and then I got to go. They took some deals back in December of 2011 that I recently found out about over in Switzerland with the Swiss bankers, where he could bring the Durham Trust collateral to the table to settle out this global financial crisis. Well, Mr. Valentine messed up, and he cannot, at any time, come close to this trust to go, or has any authority. Christine Lagarde knows this. Papandreou knows it. And I think even go back to Helmut Kohl, Helmut knows about it. Putin probably knows about it. No one is going to settle out this mess except the trust. No one. No Gene Valentine, nothing. Gene tried to produce, tried to steal, threaten, intimidated, and coerce, tried to make me eat rotten chicken. And tried to have me committed so he could get control for 79 months so that he could continue doing his little corrupt, crooked thing. Well, I would say the same when I was a young girl. So rave on, more shit the birds will get you. And that's just the way I feel about it. Don't get to go to me. I'm not messing with him. He's not messing with any of the collateral. And I don't care how many damn crooked attorneys that he gets out there in Iowa. I have another individual who seems to have a lot, and I've worked with him since the 80s. He's got a lot of political clout. And I'm going back in, and I'm going to kick ass to where they're going to have to take their shoulders, their shit up and take crap, and that's just the final word I have to say about this.
All right. And I know you got to go to the doctor there with your...
got to take my little boy to the doctor.
All right, dear. I appreciate
all of you.
I appreciate you being on.
Keep this country safe. Let's keep this country America for Americans. And the rest of them can chew our heels.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about some of those dual citizens for the next 15 minutes here. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being on my show.
Have a nice day. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye, dear.
Bye.
All right. Folks, I've invited this gentleman to be on my show. I haven't heard back from him yet. But we're talking about Jim Stone, a freelance journalist. And here's what he has to say. He says, during a period of time spanning from late 2005 to early 2008, I attended Jewish services in Montreal, Canada, and then in Vancouver, Canada, with the stated intention of converting. It was, in part, an investigation to see if all the stories of evil were true. At first, they were a little standoffish, but when I arrived in Vancouver, they hired a rabbi, Sasha Orenstein, to teach me. He was a very good man. The synagogues were close together, and the one I attended was small and often had a difficult time forming a minyan, the minimum required to make the proceedings formal, and I would run across the street to a larger synagogue, Beth Hamadash, to call people to ours so enough people would be present. Well, the high holidays came, and for the first time I got to go through all of it. It was then I discovered that there was a special prayer book that came out, a book which no outsider was allowed to see. It cost hundreds to attend the high holiday services, and it is a ticketed event with security guards. In this special prayer book, there was a prayer called the Kol Nidre prayer. This prayer is filthy. It's like an oath to Satan himself, where you basically say to God that you intend to lie and not honor contracts during this year, that you should be forgiven for lying and not honoring contracts in the last year, because you never agreed to be honest in front of God and therefore cannot be punished. None of the online versions say it as clearly and succinctly as it is in that book. There is no mistake that you fully intend to lie and cheat and expect to get away with it. Well, Jim Stone says, I am a man of honesty and honor, and even though joining the Jews would have been no doubt key to launching my music career and my photography career, I was so disgusted with this prayer I began to have doubts about wanting to be Jewish. Well, all of my doubts were confirmed. After a small spat with someone at Sharer Tifla, a few weeks after the holidays, I went across the street and attended services at Beth Hamadrash for a day. As preparation for what will come next, I need to mention how various rabbis spoke about a Jewish victory over mankind, and that was soon on the high horizon, but not guaranteed because the internet was messing things up. I never got more detailed than that. And I must say that before every service, they make good and sure they know if there are guests present, non-Jewish people, etc. If there are any unconfirmed people attending services, they change the nature of the service. They don't care how many get messed up. They allowed me to mess up 2 consecutive years of services. Well, when I went over to Beth Hamadrash, they all really liked me over there. A special speaker arrived from out of town, as is the norm, and the call went out, do we have any visitors? And one man said no, another said, well, how about him, pointing at me, and another said, no, he's not a visitor, he's one of us, and another man said, he's one of us, and the speaker said, are you sure? And they all chimed in and said, yes, he's one of us. And then I got to see a real Jewish service. The speaker proceeded cautiously. The Jews, in violation of 501c3 status that's are used on to maintain our control of our preachers and churches, they use their religious services as political and war planning venues. He spoke about how they owned the media, the medical, the education, the legal, every aspect of Canadian society, and especially American society, European society. He said it all, that they intend to gain victory over us, to enslave mankind, and that they needed to use their extremely disproportionate influence over society to gain absolute victory. You all have your jobs, your assignments, and you must use extremely disproportionate influence to make things go a Jewish way and gain our ultimate victory over mankind. I kept a straight face despite being absolutely appalled, and every bad thing I'd ever heard about Jews was confirmed in a single speech. And I left the Jewish community. I was blown away by how accurate people like David Duke are regarding the Jews. They did not leave well enough alone. Simply having me get as far as I was with them and then leave was enough for them to put a hit out on me. I attended an event with a girl I started dating, and when she got invited out of nowhere, which she got invited to out of nowhere, she was not aware of anything like it and did not know what to expect. We went. It was a little strange. It cost money to set up, and it was strange. Something was not right about it. They had great food, though, and I was offered some wine. It was horrible and bitter. I was shocked. There was a woman from one of the synagogues there in the food preparation. I thought nothing of it, though. I was fine for about 3 days, and then started getting strange muscle cramps. On day 5, they were severe. Day 6, I could barely walk and was going into spasms. On that day, I got a very strange email. It was a series of quotes from various books assembled to form a message. There was no doubt. This, no doubt, was tied to the writing style of the sender. This took a lot of work to assemble. I'll break it down following the message, and I knew when I received this that I had been poisoned as punishment for leaving the Jewish community, and they did not expect me to survive it. They knew that the poison would be taking full effect. The message follows. A sweet face, she forbade her wearing cotton caps, just the trite, well-known fact that a murderer so near the border. The essence of this monk, the position of the South, was in this respect melted butter, thus flayed pigs commonly. No one told Mr. Samuel Bertram of the change of plan, each buried in its bosom. These may have taken their electronic works that could be freely shared. You did, mon ami. Since then, you've changed of zoology. Unhappily, you have crushed this fine service, and now be gone. If there be half stern fortitude which enabled him to hide that which we ought to do something about it, try to a word for the act of complaining about something he entered unto those gin palaces, which is like. Now, that is what a death threat message looks like. Let's dissect it. No, I'm not going to do that. I'll just take it for the plan. You can read this on my Facebook. Free American 69 is on there. Is there. Now, he says, Jim Stone says, I wondered for a second if it was just a stupid email, but it realized it fit my situation exactly. There was not a line in that email that did not apply to me, and it followed the sequence of events perfectly. Add that to the fact that I was doubling over with cramps, and it was obvious I'd been poisoned. I got very lucky with finding a cure. It turned out it was as if God handed it to me. I went to Google, entered my symptoms, and the word poisoning, delayed cramps, delirium, poisoning, and the first link was to a website that listed my symptoms and timeline perfectly. It was a slow-acting alkaloid poisoning that would be fatal due to extreme cramping to death, a hideous death if not cured. I then typed the alkaloid poisoning antidote into Google, went to another website which had antidotes to various poisoning. A few days later I tried this and did not ever find those sites again. I'm not sure exactly what I typed. The antidote, site said it was pickling salt and vinegar in conjunction with ammonium fumes could cure it, so I ate a large jar of pickles, and the cramps let off for a little while. Then I took out a bowl full of ammonia window cleaner, put it in a box on the floor, draped a towel over the opening of the box, put my head in, and went to sleep. Then I woke up. I was perfect, with no poisoning at all other than the ickiness from the ammonia. I thought about where the poisoning could have happened, and the only place was the event I went to, and the bitter wine. It all fit. So I was back to normal. I made a mistake. Now, you have a hit out on you. Never get into a routine schedule out in public. I did. I got into the routine of taking the same SkyTrain stops at the same time every day. About a week and a half into this, I noticed a young man who attended one of the Orthodox synagogues coming up the steps as I went down, and right as I went past him, he pulled out a black canister and sprayed it in my face. Whatever it was had no odor or taste. It was like a clear gas. He timed it perfectly, and I was breathing in exactly the wrong time and sucked in the full blast, and I noticed nothing immediately, but made it a point to remember that incident. A week went by. I almost forgot about the event, but I started getting copious amounts of clear phlegm coming up all the time out of my lungs. My nose started running uncontrollably. There was no fever, no muscle cramps, no sign of flu or infection, just gobs and gobs of phlegm and a good blast of over 20 feet of walking, and I had to keep a large sputum cup by the bed. On the worst 3 nights, I laid on the floor, gasping for breath, trying to overcome the phlegm, and was not sure I would survive those nights, but I started to come out of it. It lingered on and on with a copious phlegm over a year. And about a month into it, I lost my hearing. My hearing was gone, attenuated well over 100 dB. I could not use a phone. I could not even hear a nearby car horn. People had to scream in my face, and by combining what little sound I could hear with their lip movements, I could make out what they were saying. But there was something even stranger about this. After it faded off a little, I noticed that whenever I had periods of deep analytical thinking, the phlegm came far worse. Our burst of emotions would make it come a lot worse. I was in this phase when I met my wife, who's a doctorate of pharmacology. She diagnosed the symptoms as neurological poisoning and said I was not likely ever to get over it fully. Fortunately, 2 years after the initial sprain, I was over it. Things settled down for a while, and then I did the Fukushima report. While doing this report, I was stalked constantly, had the bios of 2 Cell phones, modem, rewritten by hackers, destroying them. Had my hard driver, a woodpecker, and after publishing a report, someone would go into the field directly adjacent to my house and shoot a shotgun 7 times exactly at midnight for a month straight. If that's not a death threat, what is? Most recently, my wife Sharon Stone and I were proceeding on I-15 southbound in Salt Lake City. After spending a day there and a mile before the 4500 south off ramp, a red cab semi with an unmarked trailer truck snuck up on us with his lights turned off, hooked up with the last 4 inches on the side of the rear of the car on the bumper, and put the car into a spin. I noticed the rear of the car drifting sideways. There was no sound of impact because it was such a gentle nudge, and I looked and saw him back there in the dark. I knew I had to get ahead of him, so I floored it. The spin was well established. The only way for the car to go if I hit the brakes would have been to get eaten by the semi. The headlights then kept on and came on, and I kept it floored, hoping the car would not roll. Keeping it floored was the thing to do. It got me out of in front of him to avoid being mowed down, and with the tires screaming and the burning rubber forward, I managed to pull into the skid into the HOV lane and out of the path of the semi. I was then perfectly backwards on the freeway with the forward burnout going. Had I let off the gas, it would have stalled the engine and probably blown the transmission as the semi went past me. Keeping it forward and keeping perfect flotation going, and the car proceeded on its when I was coming out of the full 360, I let off the gas, never hit the brake, and ended up going perfectly forward 2 lanes over from where I was to begin with. The semi floored it up to about 90, still having about 60 miles of momentum. I took off after it. I then thought, well, he could be dangerous, and there's probably minimal damage to the car, so I backed off, pulled off the 4500 south, and inspected the car. The only damage was a small indentation on the side of the bumper where the semi hooked up. Ever heard of the famous controversial people? Ever heard of all the controversial people getting killed in car semi accidents? Most people hit the brakes when something goes wrong, and that's the wrong thing to do when a semi nudges your rear wheels out. You'll get sucked under and crushed if you hit the brakes at that critical moment. Yet this is the most likely thing for people to do. My wife, who published the article, tainted nightmare, and they would have gotten 2 for the price of 1. And this method and the gentle nudge leave such a small mark on the vehicle, go totally unnoticed in the carnage. I would simply look like you lost control and got eaten by a semi. There's no way to prove this event was intentional, but in light of everything else, I have no doubt that my present legal situation, where I face imprisonment for 15 years over nothing, is directly related to the Jewish community, which is pissed about me, leaving them, and doubly pissed about the Fukushima report and the article nuclear blackmail. No doubt at all. When they tried to kill me twice already and failed, possibly a 3rd time, this new method of getting me lost in the vast American prison system is no doubt the new modus operandi. And there's more, much more. At times I've been followed, staked out, sabotaged, intercepted, blown off the web. The list is endless. I need protection. I have got to find a new place with a new identity. It's the only way I will survive. And folks, it happened to me. Still happening. I need your support. I need your help. I need you to go to Facebook. I need you to like Facebook. I need you to go to YouTube. And we will continue getting you the kind of information that we're getting and supporting people like Grandma and Jim Stone. Hopefully Jim Stone will be able to come on my show. And I got to tell you, I really appreciate you listening. The trolls don't bother me because I know I'm doing God's work. I know I'm doing the right thing, and I am the voice of liberty. And I'm telling you that the problem we have, we can solve, and that's how do you fight evil without becoming